So I got a lot of comments requesting I do more Soviet-era tool stuff. Listen, I'm super thrilled that so many of you found that drill video interesting to watch, but I really don't want to start becoming a Soviet tool review guy. I make videos about things I like, and as you can see if you look at the rest of my videos, I like a wide variety of things. I don't want to get pigeonholed. Anyway, fresh from the former Soviet Union, I freaking love Lithuanians, man. They're like Jawas, scavenging the carcass of a fallen empire and selling the scraps to curious Westerners like me. And for that, they get a place in my heart as Baltic state number 1. I do have one question for my Lithuanian friends, though. German shoebox. That Soviet drill came in a German box, too, with a picture of my pretty German girlfriend inside of it. So I'm wondering, is all your stuff from Germany? It is a merry English Christmas. Apologies for the nasally tone in my voice. I've been nursing a sinus infection the past few decades. Look at this damn thing. The Mandalorian carried something like this in season 1. I picked this thing out like I picked out my wife, based on looks alone and with zero due diligence, but I pulled the trigger and now I'm committed. Huh, speaking of commitment, the trigger latches on. Whatever it does, you better hold on. I'm relieved and a little bit disappointed that this made it through customs. How must this look on an X-ray scanner? Google Translate did not make a dent in this one. I had to turn to the prestigious Intellectual Consortium over on Reddit. Who knew all those Russian troll accounts would be so helpful? This says Ministry of Construction, Roadwork, and Communal Machinery, which is one of the most Soviet-sounding sentences I've ever spoken. This says electric screwdriver, which, if you say so. This is the model. Diameter 6 millimeters. Fair. This means 750 RPM. But as we saw in the last video, these RPM ratings mean absolutely nichivo. The rest of the nameplate basically says I'm f***ed. 3-phase, AC, 200 hertz. Fine, I'll splurge on a VFD. But here's my problem. 36 volts. VFDs change frequency and phase, not voltage. They just spit out the same 240 volts that goes in. A variac would change my voltage, not the frequency or phase. So I would just need a VFD feeding not just a variac, but a super pricey 3-phase variac, or 3 single-phase variacs, I guess. That's almost $1,000 in gear. This channel does make some money, but not spend $1,000 trying to run an antique $100 Rusky screwdriver just to find out it still doesn't work anyway. Money. 4.5 amps, 0.12 kilowatts, or 120 watts, yada yada. This warns you not to plug it into the 50 hertz mains, or else something gulag. Here's the year, 1968, and the serial number right here. Ooh, she's heavy.
Красная, сжимает глаза.
tried out a newer, higher fidelity recording of that song from the Red Army Choir, and it got flagged for copyright. However, I got a notification that the owner was willing to share revenue. You can't make that up. There's a 50-50 chance that these Bakelite, and let's not beat around the bush here, gun grips were actually used on a Soviet pistol of some kind. Makarov, maybe? I don't know. But it's not a culture prone to wasting existing designs, especially good ones. Not like here, where we make things awesome and then decide to cancel them. Cool switch. I have no idea why you'd want it to latch every single time, but the latching action is powerful and authoritative. I guess those little slotted screws have to come out. Gonna strip those. No luck. I'll come back to this after I've had some potato-based liquid courage. If you've ever taken a revolver apart before, well, that looks familiar. How is it so clean in here? The grease is supposed to fling around and coat the moving parts, and this looks like it's never been used. That tells me nothing. I just like the smell of old grease, am I right, men? Hardened steel double reduction gear with a brass bushing. Nice, very nice. There's another bushing. Oh, wait. Damn, that's a blind needle bearing. That's better than a bushing or a ball bearing. This thing's professional grade. This probably has something to do with it. You know, in addition to making this thing look even cooler. It unscrews. It unscrews a lot. Wait. Oh, hell yeah. It's a little impact. A compact 1960s Soviet corded impact gun. I'm not touching that bearing with a 10-foot pole. Gonna turn my workshop floor into that scene from Home Alone. Tell me this isn't animal fat. Go to Arby's for comparison and tell me that's not animal fat. It's poultry-based. Here's the anvil. Among other parts. I know what this is for. I don't know what kind of bit it fits, but I know it holds bits. And I know what this is for. It's a spring-loaded hammer. As the motor turns, it builds up momentum, and then bam. Bam. Not entirely sure what this little bullet is for. It's probably something to do with keeping everything in contact with the bit at all times, or maybe the bit retainer is spring-loaded. The female end has that ball detent, and the nameplate says 6mm. But it ain't 6mm. Super sloppy. And it doesn't fit into the narrow opening at the bottom. However, 5mm fits like a glove. Locked in. So I don't know. Maybe it's a 6mm bit with a 5mm wide shank machined in. I've Googled the snot out of this tool and I cannot find out what kind of bit it uses. I also can't find anything about the tool itself. This may be the only one in existence outside the old Iron Curtain, and I certainly don't know how it ended up on eBay. This is definitely something that was government property. And not like communally. I mean, they had a receipt for this and someone stole it from the job site. I guess I could email the seller, but why ruin the mystery? Zzz. Can you hear it? The summer rains have begun. Stuck. Where's my hammer? I don't dare pry on this aluminum housing. Do I? All right, I'll use the correct tool for the job. Made in Germany. Don't worry, I'm not raising my standards from Harbor Freight. I stole this from work, much like the person who acquired this impact driver. Ball bearing, not sealed or shielded, but it looks like it might have been in a past life. Lots of solid cast aluminum parts. Even the fan impeller. Good lord, the quality difference between this 1968 and that Soviet drill from 1976. Must have been a rough 8 years back in the USSR. I mean, we had our drop-offs during that time period, too.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Everybody's falling for this one. 68 Dodge Charger is here, and it's a whole new ballgame.
Yesterday's Dodge Charger got recognition for winning 75 racing titles. Today's Charger is a mid-size car with a style that keeps it ahead of the crowd.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Take two. Nice. I'm 100% certain the wiring doesn't matter here, but I'm only 99% sure. You might be thinking, why use a black Sharpie to label a black part? And there's a good reason for that. I've been drinking. Interesting that the switch only breaks 2 of the 3 phases. The third goes right through to the motor, and that's illegal by any electrical code I know. I mean, it breaks the magnetic field and essentially makes it an open circuit, so it does the job, but you can still get zapped. Wait a minute, it's only 36 volts. Clever girl. This seems ill-advised. Oh, never mind. There's a fine line between liquid courage and idiot in a bottle, and I'm straddling that line quite well, I'd say. This bearing is still sealed on both sides. And here we have the first example of this being a Soviet tool. They didn't deburr the casting. They did balance it, though. This thing is actually really nice. I don't know if that fan is even effective, but it looks cool as hell. This shield looks like it would block a lot of airflow. Weird. Here's the 3-phase winding. That ain't coming out. Sneaky set screw. Just one? Well, f*** it. The cable ends just look homemade to me, but, like, really well homemade. They just twisted, bent, and tinned the wire into the shape of a lug. It looks very nice. Tight and round. Whenever I do this, it comes out frayed and trapezoidal. Another Soviet tool, another kooky switch I've never seen before. A Western tool would just use a common micro switch with a roller at the end of the lever. Ain't no way I'm taking that pin out. I'd never get it back in. Just gonna unscrew around it. Oh boy. Oh well, in for a kopeck, in for a ruble. Beefy spring. I don't know how this switches anything, though. Are the screw heads conductors? No. Okay, so this shuttle moves back and forth and makes and breaks two independent connections. So the bottom half of the switch is pretty traditional. It's just the top half that looks like it came from a Dr. Seuss book. Precision machined brass inserts for the screws on top, as well as I imagine the ones that hold it into the frame of the tool. Notice I still call this a tool, just because I'm not 100% convinced I know what it does yet. Whoop, close one. I forgot something. Interestingly, it appears to be normally closed, and then it opens when you squeeze it. So you squeeze the trigger and latch it off, and then push the button to turn it back on. Makes no sense to me, but I've taken this switch back apart 3 times. I'm pretty sure there's only one way it goes back together. I'm an idiot. It goes back together both ways. Versatility? Yeah, let's go with that. I'm willing to entertain the possibility of getting this running somehow. It's too cool not to try. Potentially with a motor and winding swap from somewhere on planet Earth? I don't know. But first, I want to see if it functions mechanically. So the simplest thing to do is to pull this bearing and shove the shaft into my drill. Ah, maxed out. So close. The soft lead nose prevents marring of the motor shaft. Bang! There's no powder or primer. How dumb do you think I am? Let me know in the comments. The only info I could find on this thing was in a dream I had last night where I used it to overthrow the Tsar. So I know nothing about what kind of bit it uses. I got this 1/4 inch Harbor Freight socket driver, which is pretty close. I'm going to mill the shaft from a 1/4 inch down to 5 millimeters so it slides in. This Harbor Freight vise is terrible. It tweaks as you tighten it, so the piece gets crooked and tends to fly out if you look at it sideways, especially small things like this. Fuck this. If you can't machine it with a bench grinder, are you really a machinist? It's not turning. Oh, wait, that's spring. Ah, so the motor turns all the time, that's why it latches, but it doesn't engage the gears until you push on the workpiece. I got a bolt and a nut bolted through a 2x4 for some resistance to make it hammer, and I'll take my svelte little contraption here to see what happens. Super low gearing. It's hammering. Hammer time. I don't think the Milwaukee has the RPM to make this thing run properly. Not even in top gear, with nitrous engaged. Looks like I'm gonna have to try to get this running under its own power. You'd all be mad if I didn't keep the original motor in here, wouldn't you? You're a bunch of purists, making my life difficult. First, why does it have such a kooky, low-voltage, high-frequency, 3-phase rating in the first place? This is all conjecture, so take the next few minutes with a grain of salt. But my theory is, like everything else, It's all about that power, baby. Single phase power looks like this. You've got peak here and here. But here, you have dog shit. 60 times every second, you're getting 2 helpings of dog shit. Or 50 times per second if you're from a country that has never been to the moon before. Shots fired. So what if you added a second phase? Now your average voltage is much higher. It's not technically average, it's actually root mean squared, but I digress. No more crossing 0. Now, let's add a third. You could add more and more phases and get better power, but the returns are diminishing and each phase requires more windings and wires and cost, and we're trying to run a business here, people. 3-phase is Goldilocks. Also, I got sick of trying to draw symmetrical parabolas in Microsoft Paint. 200 Hz is another weird spec. My guess is it further decreases how many times you cross 0 in a second. Imagine this, but super squished this way. It might resemble this slightly. 36 volts makes sense for a mobile tool like this. First, you don't need to ground it. Whatever you use this for, you can use it while standing in mud, blood, or slush. You'll notice I won't be wearing the rubber gloves this time. I could get a VFD to make my 3-phase 200 Hz supply, and then I'd have to find some step-down transformers. I'd need 3 of the damn things, so I can step each individual phase down to 36 volts. What I've bought here is a wall hanger. You people are not being very considerate of my time and my money. We've all been peer pressured into doing stupid shit before, and we all know it sucks. So why are you doing it to me now? Fine. Communist? Capitalist? But also sort of communist? I don't know. That whole thing is screwy. I like power tools, not politics or economics. Boring. I didn't need a 5-horse VFD for this, but my lift is also 3-phase. And if this 40-year-old rotary phase converter ever dies on me, it'll be nice to have this ghost of YouTube videos past to slap on there and get it working again. Bože moi, that's a lot of pins. The manual. Forgive me, Tim Allen, for the crimes against manhood that I'm about to commit.
Don't look at it. Shut your eyes. Don't look at it, no matter what happens.
If you unscrew the screw terminals too far, they fall out because they're not captured. And then you can't get them back in. You need a magnetic screwdriver, and then you have to pray it doesn't fall off, or else... Or else you have to remove the entire goddamn housing to fish it out. I think the fans have to come out. Well, now you get to see what the inside of a cheap Chinese VFD looks like. Silver linings, right? That didn't work at all. Friend, I must ask you to make the ultimate sacrifice for your fellow comrade. After hours on YouTube University, I think I've got this programmed correctly. Run. You can see the frequency goes up as it accelerates the motor. It thinks it's attached to. I don't know if there's a way to start at full frequency. I haven't figured that out yet. For now, I'll just deal with the slow acceleration. You can see the frequency rising to the set 200 Hz to match the tool's specifications. Voltage is a little high at 260, but that's what these bad boys are for. If you ever go to the Dominican Republic, ask them for a Morir Soñando. Once they're done laughing at you, they'll make you the best non-alcoholic beverage you've ever had. I want to see how this thing's output looks on the scope, before and after being transformed. Should be cool to see the sine wave change as I adjust the speed on the VFD. You can see the frequency go up as the motor speed, quote-unquote, increases. I don't know if there's a setting to go to full beans instead of ramping up slowly like this, but it's still cool to see. Yeah, that's roughly sinusoidal. Now to step it down. I'm not 100% sure on the correct wiring, so I'm just going to figure it out as I go. I've got the primary windings in series, hooked up to both legs of the 240 volt power directly from the wall. I should get 36 volts from two of these contacts. Just not sure which two. 20 volts. Okay, so it must be these two. 40. That makes sense since my wall voltage is a tad high. No big thing. Alright, now I got the transformer hooked up to one phase of my VFD's three-phase output. I'm going to watch the voltage and the waveform to see if this is even going to work. Engage. Wow, that transformer just jumped. Something about being on camera makes me brave, though. Must be all your company. I was afraid of this. As the frequency going to the transformer increases beyond the rating of said transformer, my efficiency's going to hell and my voltage is dropping precipitously. I didn't study the datasheet on these transformers before I bought them. Theme of the whole video here. As he desperately fiddles with the settings to make this look like a waveform that might power a motor. And fails. My budget and attention span for this project have been maxed out. Allow me to introduce my friend, Plank. He's heat treated. So I have to make a bit of a Sophie's choice here. I can run this at 60 Hz and skirt the frequency response issues I'm getting with the transformers, or I can run it at 200 Hz that the tool is rated for, but then I lose 9 volts in frequency-induced transformer inefficiency. I think I'm going to sacrifice the voltage. Hopefully it's still enough to boogie. I lied. I'm wearing them anyway, because I'm a big, fat pussy. Here goes nothing. Quite literally. Forgot about delta configuration. If you don't know what that is, watch another video because my ability to explain anything expired 20 minutes ago. It's humming, but no go. I've got 25 volts from A to B, 32 volts from A to C, and 34 volts from B to C. That is a hell of an imbalance. I noticed that my outputs are configured delta, but my inputs are still referenced phase to ground, so I rewired the inputs delta to match. Not 100% sure that was my problem, but I have a hunch. A to B, 44.7 volts. A to C, 44.8. B to C, 44.7. By George, the blind mouse has found the cheese. It's trying. It's trying even harder now. It wants to live. Took the gears off just in case it's a startup torque issue. Maybe a little push. Hey! Wow, that runs right up. You know what really grinds my gears? I can't. It hurts my soul. It's just not getting enough startup torque from the VFD. I bet you that's a setting. Seems to be more torque at lower frequencies. There's my precision machined bit, spitting true. Gotta wait for full beams. It loosens. God damn it. This is a forward reverse button. I wonder. Oh yeah, now we're cooking with gas. I can't believe it works. I could cry. The question you're probably all asking now is, how powerful is it? And the answer, not very. I can tell by how hot it is after such a short use that the power factor on this is garbage. Probably has something to do with my redneck Yankee power supply. If I were going to start over, I'd try to find another 200 Hz three-phase motor to use as a generator and make a redneck rotary phase converter. Or get a start-run cap set up and try to use it on single-phase power, if I had any idea how to size the capacitors for something like that. Still, I'm thrilled to the moon and back that I got to see it work. To my Russian friends out there, to the moon and back, it's just a figure of speech. For some. That's going to be it for this video. As much as I'd love to continue messing around with this contraption, I'm itching to get started on that Chrysler over there. If anyone has any low-hanging fruit suggestions, I'm open to a part 2. Or, if you've got a bigger brain and a bigger budget than me and you've got a YouTube channel, you want to take a crack at it? I'd love to watch someone else try. Until then, thanks for watching.